So, if I told you someone heard a news bulletin hours before the event even happened, is that just a glitch in the brain, or is something way weirder going on?
Depends if you ask the parapsychologists or the skeptics, right? Today, we're actually untangling those controversial studies, Radin, Bem, Nelson, all the big names, and what any of it means for real precognition claims.
We're asking the big question. Can you actually see the future? Or is it just coincidence and a trick of the mind?
This is The Voice That Knew, a skeptic's journey into precognition.
We are digging into the science, the stories, and the absolute weirdness of it all.
We've got 20 episodes to figure this out together. You're not going to want to miss where this ends up.
Welcome, everyone. We're glad you decided to join us.
Let's go.
Okay, so let's talk about the moment this whole field of study got a massive and very public black eye.
You have to be talking about Daryl Bem. It's impossible to discuss the modern science of precognition without starting with his 2011 paper, Feeling the Future.
Which we've touched on before, but I don't think we've ever really dived into the fallout. Because this wasn't some obscure journal, right? This was the big leagues.
Exactly. The Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. It's a top-tier, peer-reviewed publication. And in it, Bem, a respected Cornell psychologist, presents data from 9 experiments seemingly showing that people can sense future events.
Which, to the scientific community, is like a physicist publishing a paper on how to build a perpetual motion machine. It just doesn't fit the known laws.
Right, and it created this enormous firestorm. On one hand, you had major outlets like Wired running stories asking, is precognition possible? On the other, the scientific community immediately started looking for the flaws.
So this one paper really forced a confrontation. It brought the quiet, strange world of parapsychology crashing into mainstream science.
And in doing so, it accidentally became a catalyst for something much bigger, psychology's replication crisis. It forced the entire field to reevaluate its methods. But Bem isn't the only one doing this kind of work.
Okay, so who are the key players trying to pin this down? Because it seems like you could go about it in a couple of different ways.
You're exactly right. There are basically 2 camps. First, you have the experimentalists. Think lab coats, compute, and controlled conditions. People like Daryl Bem, Dean Radin, and Roger Nelson. They're trying to provoke psi phenomena on demand.
Trying to capture lightning in a bottle, basically. Force a precognitive event to happen in a sterile lab setting where you can measure it.
Precisely. And then you have the second camp, the collectors, or maybe the naturalists. Researchers like Louisa Rhine and Ian Stevenson. They weren't trying to create psi events in a lab. They were collecting and cataloging thousands of spontaneous stories from the real world.
So, lab coats versus letters. Controlled experiments versus messy, real-life anecdotes.
That's a perfect way to put it. And they both come with their own huge strengths and even bigger weaknesses. The lab guys are chasing statistical proof, while the collectors are mapping the human experience of these phenomena.
It feels like 2 completely different ways of asking the same question. One is looking for a mechanism, the other is just trying to describe the phenomenon itself.
And understanding the tension between those 2 approaches is key to understanding why this topic is so controversial and honestly so fascinating.
Okay, so let's start in the lab. Walk me through one of Bem's actual experiments. What did he have people do?
One of his most cited experiments was called retroactive facilitation of recall. Basically, students were shown a list of words and then given a surprise recall test. After the test, a computer would randomly select half of those words for them to practice.
Wait, they practiced the words after they took the test?
Exactly. And the finding was that students were better at recalling the words they would later be chosen to practice. The future practice session seemed to retroactively influence their past test performance.
That's a very clean, simple design. And it seems to defy the arrow of time.
Which is why it was so provocative. Then you have Dean Radin, who takes a physiological approach. He studies something called presentiment, basically pre-feeling.
Okay, so how do you measure a pre-feeling?
He hooks people up to machines that measure things like skin conductance, your sweat response, essentially, or heart rate. Then he shows them a series of pictures. Some are calm, some are emotionally jarring or erotic. The computer randomizes the order.
And the idea is to see if your body reacts before the jarring picture appears on screen.
That's the hypothesis, and Radin's studies and replications by others like Dick Bierman consistently showed a small but statistically significant increase in physiological arousal seconds before the emotional images appeared, but not before the calm ones.
So it's not a conscious thought, it's the body's unconscious systems seemingly getting a heads up. And then there's Roger Nelson, who takes this to a global scale, right? The Global Consciousness Project.
Yeah, this one is probably the most out there. Since 1998, Nelson's project has used a network of hardware random number generators, RNGs, placed all over the world. These devices are supposed to be perfectly random, like electronic coin flippers.
And he's looking for what? Blips in the randomness?
He's looking for moments when the network becomes slightly less random, slightly more ordered. The project claims to find these deviations during moments of mass global emotion or attention, like 9/11 or the death of Princess Diana. The idea is that a global consciousness can influence physical systems.
Okay, that's a huge conceptual leap. From skin sweating before a scary picture to a global mind influencing machines. So the lab folks have these three very different approaches: memory, physiology, and global randomness. But, and this is the big but, how well do these results hold up under scrutiny?
This is where it all falls apart for many scientists. Let's go back to Bem. In 2012, a year after his paper, researchers Ritchie, Wiseman, and French conducted 3 independent, pre-registered replications of his retroactive recall experiment.
Pre-registered, meaning they publicly stated their methods and analysis plan before they collected the data, so they couldn't change things later.
Exactly. It's the gold standard. And all 3 replications failed. The combined results showed no effect whatsoever. And here's the kicker. They had trouble getting their failed replication published. Many journals rejected it because it was just a replication.
That's a problem with the system, not the science. So why did Bem's original study seem to work?
Critics point to a whole host of methodological issues, like p-hacking or optional stopping. This is where researchers might subtly, even unconsciously, tweak their data analysis, like deciding when to stop collecting data until they find a statistically significant result.
So it's not necessarily fraud, but it's massaging the data until it confesses.
A good way to put it. In 2017, Bem himself reflected on his work and admitted he prioritized rhetorical persuasion over replication, which many skeptics interpreted as a confession to p-hacking. Researcher James Alcock just called the experiments seriously flawed.
And what about Radin and Nelson? What are the critiques there?
For Radin, critics point to things like interpretive vagueness. For example, a subject describes seeing a large bowl, and Radin interprets that as Kit Peake's radio telescope, even if the details don't quite match. For Nelson's Global Consciousness Project, skeptics say it's all post hoc pattern matching and selection bias. You have a mountain of random data, and you're just picking out the bits that seem to align with major events after the fact.
So, the experimentalists, for all their attempts at rigor, seem to get tripped up by statistics and bias. Which brings us to the other camp, the collectors, Louisa Rhine and Ian Stevenson. Tell me about their approach.
Louisa Rhine is fascinating. They called her the First Lady of Parapsychology. Over decades, she amassed a collection of over 30,000 unsolicited letters from people around the world describing their spontaneous psychic experiences.
30,000? Wow! So what did she do with them? She couldn't possibly verify them all.
She didn't try to. She was very clear that her goal wasn't to prove psi existed, but to understand how people experienced it. She read about 15,000 of them and started categorizing. She developed a taxonomy, a classification system, for these experiences.
What were the categories?
She identified 4 main forms: intuitive impressions, hallucinatory experiences, unrealistic symbolic dreams, and realistic dreams. And she found patterns. For precognitive experiences, about 60% of them came in the form of realistic dreams. Another 20% were intuitions.
Okay, that's interesting. So she's mapping the phenomenology. What about Ian Stevenson?
Stevenson was known for being incredibly meticulous, especially in his reincarnation research. When he looked at precognition, he applied a similar rigor. He focused on trying to authenticate cases, conducting face-to-face interviews and seeking independent corroboration.
Did he find any patterns, like Rhine did?
He did. In a 1970 review, he noted that spontaneous precognitive experiences are overwhelmingly about disasters, deaths, accidents, tragedies, far more often than trivial or happy events.
That makes a certain kind of sense. It's the things that have a huge emotional impact that might, break through somehow?
That's one interpretation. Stevenson was very focused on the evidential quality of cases. He famously investigated 12 cases related to the sinking of the Titanic, believing they were strong evidence. So while Rhine was building a massive, broad database, Stevenson was doing deep dives on a smaller number of what he considered the most compelling cases.
So we have these two worlds. The lab experiments that are designed to be provable but keep failing to replicate or are found to have flaws. And then
you have this mountain of anecdotal data from Ryan and Stevenson that is subjectively powerful, full of compelling patterns, but ultimately unverifiable by scientific standards.
it feels like a perfect paradox. The methods that could provide proof don't yield reliable results, and the experiences that people find most convincing can't be proven.
That's the heart of it. The experimentalists like Bem and Radin are chasing a tiny, fleeting statistical signal in a sea of noise. It's so small that it's easily drowned out by methodological error or statistical artifacts. A skeptic would say the signal isn't there at all, it's just the noise.
And the collectors are dealing with something that feels much more real and significant to the people experiencing it. But it's completely tangled up with memory bias, retroactive fitting, and all the other ways our brains trick us.
Exactly. You can't put a spontaneous dream about a plane crash into a controlled setting. So Rhine believed her collection could offer clues to inform better experiments, while Stevenson argued that a well-investigated spontaneous case could be more evidential than a lab result.
So where does that leave us? Has anything really changed?
Well, the Bem affair, for all its controversy, did genuinely help improve science. It forced psychology to adopt more rigorous practices, like pre-registration. So, in a way, the quest to prove precognition ended up strengthening mainstream science.
Which is probably not the legacy Bem was hoping for.
Probably not, but it leaves the core mystery untouched. We have these persistent, compelling human experiences that science, at least with its current tools, seems fundamentally unable to capture or explain. The lab coats and the letters are still two separate worlds,